In the annals of tech history, some companies rise, conquer, and then fade into obscurity, leaving behind a trail of innovation and, sometimes, an unsettling sense of unanswered questions. But what if one such company, a true titan that shaped the very bedrock of our digital world, didn't just fade? What if its spectacular downfall, a collapse that shook Silicon Valley to its core, harbored a deeper, more profound mystery? What if, as some whispered in hushed tones, the technology they created was simply too powerful, too close to the edge of what humanity could comprehend, leading to its eventual, inevitable demise? To truly understand the unnerving trajectory of silicon graphics, or SGI as it was widely known, we need to rewind to a time when 3D was still a nascent concept outside of specialized labs. It was the early 1980s, and a Stanford professor named James Clark, a visionary with an almost unsettling grasp of future computing, founded SGI, his audacious goal: to make real-time 3D graphics not just possible, but accessible. Remember Jurassic Park's groundbreaking dinosaurs? That was SGI. The liquid metal T-1000 in Terminator 2, SGI. Your favorite early PlayStation games, even groundbreaking scientific visualization in fields from aerospace to medicine, all powered by the raw, unadulterated graphical might of SGI workstations. These weren't just computers, they were portals to digital worlds previously unimaginable. Architects could walk through virtual buildings, doctors could visualize complex surgeries in unprecedented detail, and Hollywood could conjure dragons and alien landscapes with a flick of a wrist. SGI wasn't just building machines, they were building the future, pushing the boundaries of human perception in a way that, looking back, felt almost prophetic. Their machines, often sleek, distinctive, and intimidatingly powerful, sat at the bleeding edge, commanding prices that made them exclusive to the elite. They were the Ferrari of computing, and for a glorious decade, they reigned supreme, seemingly invincible. But as we know, even gods can fall, and often their undoing comes from within, or perhaps from something far more complex. But even as SGI basked in the glow of Hollywood success and scientific breakthroughs, subtle cracks began to appear in the monolithic facade. The very technology that made them indispensable, highly specialized and proprietary hardware, was slowly becoming their Achilles heel. The PC revolution, largely fueled by cheaper, more commoditized components, was gaining momentum. Graphics capabilities, once the exclusive domain of SGI's multi-million-dollar machines, were trickling down to consumer-grade hardware. Worse still, Microsoft, under the leadership of a ruthless Bill Gates, began to aggressively push Windows NT as a viable, albeit less glamorous platform for high-end computing. SGI, once a fortress of innovation, found itself caught between a rock and a hard place. Their engineering-driven culture, which once fostered unparalleled breakthroughs, became a rigid chain, resistant to the shift towards standardization. They tried to adapt, acquiring Cray Research, the legendary supercomputing company, a move that bafflingly diverted their resources and focus, rather than strengthening their core. Insiders recall an air of increasing tension, whispers of missed opportunities, and an almost palpable fear that they were losing control of the very narrative they had so carefully crafted. The initial success had bred an arrogance, a belief that their technological superiority was insurmountable. But the market, like an unforgiving digital entity, cared little for prestige. It demanded adaptability, cost-effectiveness, and ease of integration. SGI, with its highly specialized MIPS processors and proprietary operating system, was a beautiful, powerful dinosaur in a world rapidly evolving with smaller, faster mammals. But some argue the real reason was far more unsettling. What if the very power they wielded, the ability to render reality with such fidelity, began to expose them to something beyond? As the 1990s progressed into the new millennium, the situation at SGI escalated from concerning to overtly dire. The desperation was almost tangible. They attempted a series of frantic pivots, each more bewildering than the last. They tried to enter the consumer market with initiatives like the Nintendo 64, a collaboration that, while iconic, didn't translate into the life-saving revenue stream SGI desperately needed. They dabbled in web servers, tried to push their operating system as a Linux alternative, and even attempted to rebrand themselves as a service-oriented company. It was a corporate identity crisis on a grand scale, a once proud lion thrashing wildly in a tar pit. Internally, the atmosphere became fraught with paranoia. Layoffs were common, morale plummeted, and the once vibrant culture of innovation, one that celebrated daring and ingenuity, was replaced by an oppressive cloud of uncertainty and blame. Engineers, many of whom had poured their lives into these groundbreaking machines, spoke of an increasing fear regarding the accessibility of their technology. Their powerful visualization tools, originally designed for benign purposes, had an inherent dual-use potential. Imagine, they mused, if the hyper-realistic simulations they pioneered were weaponized, used to design scenarios of conflict with chilling accuracy. Were their powerful visual engines too potent for just anyone to wield? The sheer fidelity they could achieve, the ability to create environments indistinguishable from reality, began to raise ethical questions that the company, in its pursuit of technological supremacy, had largely ignored. As whispers of their financial woes grew louder, so too did the more disturbing suggestions. Perhaps SGI's demise wasn't merely a market failure. Perhaps, some theorized, it was a deliberate dismantling, a quiet suppression of technology deemed too dangerous, too close to the line, by forces unseen. The ability to simulate reality itself, to craft intricate illusions that could deceive even the most discerning eye, holds a power that, in the wrong hands, could rewrite society itself. Was SGI, in its boundless ambition, stumbling upon truths best left undisturbed? What they discovered next, or rather what the market discovered about SGI, cemented its fate. The digital landscape had shifted irrevocably. Intel and Microsoft, with their cheaper, more scalable solutions, had democratized 3D graphics. GPUs, initially a niche component, were rapidly evolving, rendering SGI's specialized hardware obsolete at an alarming pace. Their loyal customer base, once willing to pay a premium for unparalleled performance, found increasingly viable and affordable alternatives. By the early 2000s, SGI was a shadow of its former self. Its towering campuses were sold off, its intellectual property piecemealed. The company that had once redefined what computers could do was being devoured, asset by asset. In 2009, after a series of desperate maneuvers and multiple bankruptcies, a vastly diminished SGI was acquired by Rackable Systems, a company specializing in high-density servers. The name Silicon Graphics still exists today, a mere branding under Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, but the spirit, the innovative fire, the almost mythical presence it once held, is long gone. The machines, once revered as cutting-edge, are now museum pieces, relics of a bygone era, sparking nostalgia but little else. The truth of its downfall, while officially catalogued as a series of strategic missteps and market shifts, continues to hold a certain unsettling allure for those who delve deeper. Was it simply a company that failed to adapt? Or did its unparalleled power, its ability to craft hyper-realistic digital worlds, brush against something more profound, something that necessitated its quiet, systematic removal from the forefront of innovation? A company that built the digital foundations of our reality, only to vanish into the very cyberspace it helped create. To this day, the story of Silicon Graphics serves as a haunting reminder of the brutal, unforgiving nature of technological progress. It's a cautionary tale, certainly, of innovation outstripping market realities and the dangers of clinging to outdated business models. But for some, the narrative runs deeper. Was their pursuit of graphical perfection a form of modern-day alchemy, pushing the boundaries of simulation to a point that invited unforeseen consequences? We may never truly know the full story behind SGI's dramatic rise and even more dramatic fall. Was it merely economics? Or was the power they unlocked, the ability to render reality with such stunning, almost deceptive fidelity, simply too much for the world to handle? Perhaps in their tireless quest to digitize the physical, they accidentally stumbled upon a truth that the powers that be deemed too dangerous for widespread dissemination. The machines may be gone, but the ghost of silicon graphics and the unsettling questions it raises about the true nature of reality and perceived reality continues to linger in the digital ether. If you're intrigued by companies that flew too close to the sun, you'll want to see our next video on the classified projects of Bell Labs and their alleged connection to unexplained phenomena.